Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Julen Larrucea, and I'm going to introduce you to BOMSI, the OpenStack installer by the book. Have you heard about Fugu? It's quite a specialty here in Tokyo. The blowfish, which inflates itself like a balloon to look big and scary. Big and scary. This reminds me of OpenStack, a project which grew up to be so big, which actually looks pretty scary for most of us. But well, with the right tools, we have nothing to fear. It's just a piece of rubber. But well, so which are the right tools? We could think of solutions such as Devstack or Packstack. I actually got started with them myself. But as a newbie, I found it a little bit complicated to understand how they work internally. So I kind of tried to search for something else. On the other hand, we have the professional tools, the configuration managers. These are definitely the way to go for administrating big productive infrastructures. But they do involve a quite a steep learning curve. And I got the feeling that they are not the fastest way to open the stack. So what do I want? I want to install OpenStack. And what do I expect from an installer? So I want simplicity and flexibility, because that's what software should be about, right? I want to do something like this. Have you ever thought, no, this is not good. Have you ever thought, why can't we install something like on cloud? As easy as that. apt-get install on cloud. Why cannot we do this? Well, if we type apt-get install on cloud, we directly get an interface where we can already start uploading our files. Why cannot we do this with OpenStack? Somebody might say, well, OpenStack is more complex. But in fact, there is something I learned from my career in quantum chemistry, and it is that if you cannot explain your work to your grandmother, it means that you didn't really understand what you did. So in principle, complexity is relative. And well, it should be possible to make an installer which installs OpenStack the same way as we can install on cloud nowadays. And later on, we can always edit the configuration files and adapt our system to a more complex infrastructure or a more optimal setup. Additionally, I personally like the idea of having an installer which follows some guide, or so to say the book or the installation guide of OpenStack, because I believe that this might help really with troubleshooting. So this is what I did. I went to docs.openstack.org, the base camp in our expedition to the cloud. And well, after doing some reading and trying the commands by hand, I got concerned about reproducibility. So I started to automate the tasks with the scripts. And these scripts at some point became what I decided to call, and I decided to name BOMSI, the Bash OpenStack Multinode scripted installer. Does make sense, right? And of course, it's I released it until GPL license, which in this particular case, it's I find it very convenient because everybody can contribute to the code, because you don't really need to understand, you don't really need to know how to program. You just need to compare the official documentation with the script. It should be 1.1 with a couple of modifications. Well, but let's see some of the features of BOMSI. BOMSI is basically a main script called BOMSI ISO, which generates an ISO file, and this ISO file contains contains all the required scripts and variable files. And it can also contain all the packages, so that you can even perform a completely offline installation. And it also contains a multi-boot interface at the beginning, so you can choose which machine you boot, although it can also set defaults. So BOMSI gives two possibilities for this ISO file. You can either create a local virtual environment with using all these ISO files as virtual machines, creating virtual networks, or otherwise, BOMSI can also copy the ISO file to a pen drive to a bootable pen drive, which you can use for installing your physical infrastructure. And well, some of the features I like most from BOMSI is that it is very simple. It contains 0 or 3 required variables. 0 variables for the virtual environment, where basically everything is set as default. You can change the settings, but it will work also if you don't change anything. And it contains just 3 variables: 3 for Germans, 3 for Americans, and 3 for Japanese. 3 variables for fitting the installation into an existing network interface, in the existing network infrastructure. And these variables are the gateway, the DNS server, and the netmask. And well, as I said, it can also install fully offline, because it can create a local repository. It follows the book, so if there is some problem, you can always check the install guide and check point by point and make sure that it is right. Because after all, I wrote it myself, and I might have made some mistake, but anybody can check and make sure that it is right. And well, I am also working in some custom troubleshooter scripts, which try to check the most common things we check when we are trying to make some diagnosis of some problem, and it gives you some samples of how it should look like. And to get an idea of how simple it is to use BOMSI, well, if you want to install a basic but full feature OpenStack infrastructure with 3 nodes, the controller, compute, and network, you just type this command here. You can see there is this BOMSI ISO script, to which you provide an argument name as one of the names in the list, and it will create an ISO file with the name of the variable, and it will launch a virtual machine with the proper settings and defaults. So if you wait some 10-15 minutes, depending on the machine, you can just go to the default address, the 10.0.0.11, in your Firefox, and start launching instances. It should work out of the box. And on the other hand, if you want to use BOMSI for installing physical machines, you can just use the pen drive option and set the device associated to your pen drive, for example, dev/sdv. And well, additional arguments are also allowed. For example, use internet if you want to use internet for the installation, or if you want to use everything just from the local repository. And then, well, after you stick the pen drive to the physical machine, you wait for a couple of minutes, some 10-15, depending on the server speed, and you will get this menu where it will either launch the default option, or you can use the arrows for choosing which kind of node do you want to install. And well, that's basically it. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu. And my name is Julen Larrucea, and I will be very happy to answer any question you have.